I manage someone who was terribly harmed by my family. What do I do? I am not op. Original post by a reader on Ask a Manager. As per AAM request. Only the letters are here. Response is at the link. Trigger warnings. Rape, sexual assault. Mentioned. No details. Child abuse. Foster child abuse. Less than. Mood spoilers. Sad but looks positive for both OOP and employee. Another win for communication. Less than. Original 21/22/2017. I am a director of a department. One of the supervisors who reports to me, Jane, is a former foster child of my sister. My sister and her family have issues, and it was alleged that her son raped Jane while she was living with them. While I do not know the details of the situation, I am aware that my nephew is troubled and I do not doubt Jane's story. I am currently estranged from my sister and her family in part due to this situation. Through family gossip, I have learned that my sister openly and vocally blames Jane for her son's problems in life and has made Jane aware of this. Jane and I have never discussed any of this, and as far as I know, she was not aware of my relationship to her rapist, former foster family. My name is very common and we never met while she was living with them, so I would not expect her to connect us. My nephew passed away recently and an office busybody shared the obituary with my department, with a message explaining this was my nephew. So at this point I assume Jane has made the connection. In the weeks since the obit was shared with the department, Jane appears quite stressed in general, and in one-on-one meetings with me she appears uncomfortable to the point of being on the verge of tears at times. I am struggling with whether or not to discuss this with her and how to best address it. I normally try to be direct with my employees, but this seems like way too personal an issue to discuss with an employee. At the same time, part of me feels that if Jane knew I do not consider these people family and am not holding anything against her, it could make things easier for her, even if it did not make things better. I think clearing the air between us might at least make her feel better, since she would not have to guess what I do and do not know. Although I have no idea what she is thinking or feeling, and being open with her about this could just make things 100 times worse for her. Jane is a great employee and I would really like to keep her on my team. But if she feels it is too uncomfortable working together, I would like to help her find something else, either at our company or elsewhere. Assuming there is an appropriate way to address this situation to begin with, would it be appropriate to tell her I would support her if she indicates she won't find another job? Be a reference. Reach out to industry contacts, etc. I do not want her to feel like she is being pushed out by any means. But I could not blame her for not wanting to work for her rapist's uncle. Is there any good move here? Ignoring the issue does not seem like an option, especially considering at some point the level of stress she is exhibiting would most likely affect her job performance. As of now, it is not, and then I would have to address that, and potentially open this can of worms anyway. Any advice you have would be most appreciated, as I am way out of my league here. Comments. W Incredible, call Rain and ask for advice. 18,006,564,673. Captain Awkward. Another advice site. Hi, Allison put the awkward signal in the sky, and I second this advice. I think the Allison scripts, especially the second one, are very good, compassionate and truthful, but talking to someone who has been trained to handle sexual assault information will give the LW much more comfort and peace of mind than going in alone. Especially since Jane hasn't disclosed anything. This is the nightmare that Jane is living in. This long ago violation has followed her into a formerly safe place. It's hard to know whether acknowledging it truthfully. I believe you. It's not your fault. I am absolutely on your side. "You are a great employee and I am so sorry that this has followed you here." Or giving her lots of space and privacy. "You don't have to discuss anything. But if you need some support, time off, something else within my power to grant, you've got it," is the right thing to do. Hibiscus, you have to be explicit and transparent. I think ideally this would have been done when Jane first started working for the LW. You have to come out and say, maybe with your manager or HR present, that you are estranged from your sister and her family due to your nephew's actions. That you found the allegations to be believable due to various factors. And that you are so sorry that Jane had to experience this. Letting this go on unremarked has made it 100 times worse. Responses to above. Please do not involve HR. If Jane has not discussed this with them, having someone expose it could make a difficult situation even more difficult. And that's assuming that the OP's HR people are really good at their jobs. Seriously. What Observer said. Do not involve HR. Full stop. As someone who has been assaulted, I would be effing mortified if someone disclosed that to HR without my knowledge or consent. It's none of their business and Jane should be the only person on the planet that get to choose whether to disclose what happened to her or not. In fact, I don't think it would be unreasonable to speculate that part of Jane's fear now isn't only, does Op know or not, but also, and if he does know, who else has he told? Quote, Jane has already suffered so much as a result of the OP's selfish evil. But selfish is part of it. Family member. Personally, I'd gladly sacrifice my own wishes and comfort, and very small danger of HR backlash, to preserve her privacy. Note. Some more debate in comments about whether to involve HR. Generally constructive. Update 020320017. Thanks so much for answering my question. I found your advice very helpful. And I also think I just needed a sanity check that there was no easy answer I was missing here. I intended to reply to more of the comments, but I got a bit overwhelmed. I did reach out to Rain. We discussed the approach and I ended up deciding that something similar to Script 2 was the best way to move forward. This was based a good deal on Jane and my previous working relationship, so not a one-size-fits-all approach. If someone finds themselves in a similar situation, I highly recommend reaching out to Rain or something similar on your own. I also reached out to my employer's EAP to talk through some of my feelings that my nephew's passing brought up, so I didn't subconsciously let my personal struggles come through to Jane. In addition to Allison's script, I added something to let her know that this family does not know where I live, work, and I have not spoken with them in 10+ years. So there is no way they would know where to find her from this connection. I also decided not to mention that I would help her find work elsewhere, and instead left it as a more generic, if there is anything I can do to help you out. I also added some information about our EAP and let her know if she needed to take some time off or work from home, I would work with her on that. I decided to handwrite this and deliver it in person. I didn't want to email it and leave a permanent traceable record. And we have an open office plan and she does not have an office, so I could not guarantee her privacy emailing or dropping off a letter. My first thought was to just talk to her in person, mostly so I could be sure to convey my sincerity. But I have been told in general conversations I can be intimidating at times. I am a fairly tall, burly man, so I decided that was not the way to go given the nature of this conversation. I called Jane into my office toward the end of the day and said something along the line of, I'm sorry to bring up a personal issue at work, but I feel it is better to address this openly. Please read this letter. I am going to be working for the rest of the afternoon out of our conference room. Take as much time as you need and feel free to call or email me if you need anything or would like to talk in person. Then I left her to read the letter. I did not see her for the rest of the day, and she came into work the next day, and so far she seems to be doing okay. I think I initially panicked in terms of transferring her to a different boss. My department is in the process of hiring 2 managers who will report to me and have the supervisors reporting to them. I anticipate this happening within a few weeks, so I am going to hold off on any changes and see how that plays out. With everything going on, I had actually managed to forget that this change was on the horizon. Also, on a different note, I did speak with the office busybody when the obituary was shared to let them know that I felt it was an invasion of my privacy and was not in contact with that part of my family. I told her that most people appreciate the ability to share family news on their own terms. In hindsight, I think I should have replied all with something letting it be known that I am estranged from this family. I was hesitant to do this as the obituary mentioned substance abuse, and I did not want to come across as uncaring about those issues, distancing myself due to that. But I was probably overthinking it. Once again, thanks for all the feedback and suggestions. Reminder: I am not the original poster. Man, you have to be hard-pressed for the drama in order to share an obituary of your coworker's nephew. Entirely unprompted. Does she just have Google alerts for the entire office's extended family? Like, why do you know this? An office busybody shared the obituary with my department, with a message explaining this was my nephew. It's wild how unprofessional some people's workplaces are. I can't possibly imagine being that involved with a coworker. Kneels down, touches grass. Something terrible happened here. Edit. It's the automod. I thought I was going crazy. Rolling on the floor laughing. Honestly surprised the busybody wasn't fired. It's not her business to bring up someone else's family affairs without their consent. At least the nephew is gone and can't hurt anyone anymore. What an awful situation. I'm glad he told the busybody off though. Who shares a colleague's family member's obituary without talking to them? I love how Oop didn't just want to respond kindly and reassure Jane, but also went the extra lengths to talk to a business expert and an expert on SAW. I aspire to be this empathetic. Wow, what a situation that Oop ended up in. But glad it sounds like everything went as well as it could be. Really wonder what Jane thought of the letter. I'm struggling to understand what kind of person brings obituaries of their colleagues' relatives into work and reads them out like office gossip. Glad this went to Ask a Manager, because this is way above Gen Pop Reddit's pay grade. Sweet Christ, on a runaway moped. What a situation. What a rough situation. I hope Jane doesn't feel the need to quit her job. On the plus side, she knows her rapist is dead. Who in the fuck shares the obit of a coworker's family member? How deranged are you? The fuck? Also, on a different note, I did speak with the office busybody when the obituary was shared to let them know that I felt it was an invasion of my privacy and was not in contact with that part of my family. I told her that most people appreciate the ability to share family news on their own terms. I don't understand why this coworker didn't get an actual reprimand from HR for her behavior. Who the hell sends mass emails about someone else's family member dying? Why in the hell would someone share an obituary at a workplace without even speaking to the relative? If the busybody had checked in with Oop first, this never had to be an issue. Wow, this is a crazy situation for both of them. They both escaped that horrible family, moved far from them with no contact, and unknowingly found each other. I can imagine that this exact situation would be right up there with her worst fear. Once again Allison came through with sound advice. And I'm glad Oop got another reference to do this appropriately. He sounds like a good boss in person. It's no wonder he went NC with that family. One can only hope they found a way to move on from this and are living their best lives. My heart hurts for Jane. Imagining what she must have felt in that 1 second when she realized Oop was related to her abuser. While at work no less. Breaks my heart. As a manager he handled this very well. I'm usually very skeptical of advice on Reddit, but they hit it out of the park on this one. Not informing HR beforehand showed he genuinely cared, because it does put him at some risk. Rain is a fantastic resource. I hope Jane is doing okay. I would be pretty pissed off if someone I work with shared with my coworkers that one of my nibblings had died. How on earth could anyone think that was a correct thing to do on their own? Our account manager's son died, and what was shared with us was what he asked to be shared with us. I can't imagine sharing that obituary with our account without his express permission. Thoughtful dude. You can see him consider the various options. Trying to do the best thing, not just in general, but for Jane specifically. Good on him. Is this what the internet is like outside Reddit? Filled with great advice and adults communicating like adults. Taking others' frellings into consideration? Obviously. I jest. But this was really well handled. Even you owe to dealing with the nosy Parker. I think the approach I would have taken was send out a team-wide email apologizing. I'd apologize for personal information being shared and making anyone uncomfortable, and mention it was shared without my permission, and it was family I didn't talk to for over 10 years or not close with, and that's why I chose to not share it initially. Then ended asking everyone to be respectful of everyone's privacy, and if anyone needed help or like to get in contact with EAP or grieving services, to reach out and I'd help. Or if they wanted to talk, I was available. Not everyone handles death or references to death well, so Jane may not have been the only person having an issue. I wouldn't go to HR about Jane, but would go to HR about the person sharing personal information about colleagues. How'd she even get the obituary in the first place? People should share their own personal info if they want. That seems to be extremely sensitively and thoughtfully handled by the OOP. As someone who has been permanently and irrevocably no contact with a family member for over 2 decades, I would also be very upset if some harm or misdeed of theirs put an otherwise excellent working relationship or friendship of mine at risk. I also really appreciated that OOP used a handwritten letter. I feel as if this is a relationship communication tool that just isn't used enough. Writing by hand is slower than typing, so it prevents us from just dashing off a hasty email full of all the messy thoughts whirling around in our mind. A letter gives us time to think through what we want to say, the order in which we want to say it, and yes, we could type it, but there is something more personal about a handwritten letter or note, as long as it's not a crazy neighbor note. The other advantage of a letter is that you can say everything that you need to say without being interrupted. You can reflect, find the right words, and lay it all out completely. It's not so easy to do that when people are talking and emotions are high. Words tumble out in the wrong order. When trying to say the right thing, you can accidentally start out by saying the wrong thing but get cut off before you have a chance to correct yourself. And for some people, it's just not that easy to open up verbally, to voice certain things out loud, but they can say more on paper. I use a notepad and pen or pencil quite often with my teenage kids when working through disagreements, conflicts. We're a neurodivergent family, and occasional shutdowns are also a part of our family life. Alexithymia, difficulty recognizing and talking about emotions, can be an issue too. Using a notepad and pen can be an essential tool when all else fails.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.